You and I have something in common. We both lost somebody very important to us by suicide. It's hard for me to even think about it. Pain's still there. It's so much a part of who I am. If you can have a couple of minutes with that person today, what would you say?
God, so many things. I'm not sure that anything that I could say would have changed the outcome. Think that he is imprinted on my life, and the way that I carry myself, walk through the world, allows me to carry his memory with me. And although I don't think we would have had nearly the same relationship today, I think that he has helped form me and made me more understanding, more compassionate, more able to love, more able to receive love, all through walking through that experience. So maybe I would thank him. Thank you for showing me that pain is human and that we're fallible and that I can walk through anything.
All right, Rachel, this new podcast that I got going on, I say new because the last time that I interviewed you was over 2 years ago, I think. And it was on a couch at Tali's house. And I was just wanting to do a podcast, and like most things, sometimes you just got to jump into it to learn it.
Yeah.
So I kept doing it, stopped for a while. I had to rethink my process and what I wanted to do. And then I relaunched again, which is it's the same name, but just all new. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we had an amazing interview back then. But so for this podcast, the way I do is I always start with a quote. And the quote, and I asked the person here to respond to it in whatever way that they see that it resonated with them and connection to your life. So I'll start with that, and then
Can I ask how you pick the quotes?
Yeah, they just come to me. So
Okay.
literally what I'll do is the day of, I'll just start listening to things on social media, or I'll listen to different podcasts or even music, and I'll start I'll be looking for it mentally. So I'm just gonna be going through my day, and I'll be it's gonna come to me at some point. And so today, I went into a bookstore this morning to meet somebody for coffee. And I went over to a section called the creative section. And on the front was Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act. It's an amazing book. I opened the book and I went right to the quote that I'm going to ask you right now.
Okay.
So that's how it happens. It's like the
I love
magic.
that.
It's all magic.
Serendipitous.
Yeah. So it is, failure is the information you need to get where you are going. What does that mean to you?
It just speaks truth to me. Failure is the information to get to where I'm going. Absolutely. I mean, that's just what it means to me to be human, is learning how to accept my faults.
Yeah.
Right. And then it just gives me information to one of my favorite quotes is what's meant for me will find me, which means that what's meant to miss me will also miss me. Right. And sometimes I just walk through life and I step in a pile of shit.
Right.
And it's just information. Yeah. It'll
So-
redirect me back onto the right path for me, I think.
Right.
Always.
So I mean, there's this. We know that failure is a good thing. There's growth within failure, to get to, and if we choose to accept it that way, it will get us to where we're meant to be. So where you're at now, I mean, from me knowing you, you're in a great place right now. But let's talk about a failure, a failure of the past that you had to go through, a battle that you had to go through to become who you are today, which is Rachel Coker, right?
Yes.
Not Rachel Wallace.
Not Rachel Wallace
Last time you
anymore.
were on the podcast, you were Rachel Wallace. Now you're Rachel Coker, which we'll talk about. But what is that, a failure or something that was able for you to become who you are today?
Yeah. You do know me, you know my past and everything. And so I'm not sure that I would necessarily call anything in my past really a failure because it's led me to where I am today. So it really has just been oh, this is growth, right? But when you're in it and you don't know that it's going to lead you to where you are today, you think it's a failure.
Right.
you know? So I had many, many years being actively addicted to drugs and alcohol, and caused a lot of harm and a lot of damage during that time. So I would consider that like what could be looked at as an immense failure. Failure to launch, failure to
Yeah.
connect to other humans, failure to maintain a job, failure to be a good daughter and a good partner and a good person, really. Not for lack of wanting to do so, but really having an inability to live life as it was handed to me and only seeking relief, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. I love how you like were able to take the word failure and not even be able to really use that to define what you went through. That's like a very empathetic thing to do for yourself, your old self, right? The younger self, the one that we all know that's made many mistakes. Is like cause labeling that a failure. It almost like takes away from our understanding that it's not really a failure, but more so of an experience, right? Or
Yeah.
even trauma, right? Something that we all been through that create us. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as your addiction, I know we talked about it in the last one. Addiction, to multiple different things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
I used to call myself a trash can.
that's right.
Actually, my now
Right.
husband and I, we
Yeah.
joke all the time that we're dumpster people, and we're so lucky to live the life that we live now
Right.
because we like would put anything into our body. Like that's even why I picked the song that I picked to walk down the aisle to, because the main line, it's a Hosier song, and the line that I walk down to is let's just kiss like real people do, because we're trash people. How did we get here? Let's just
Yeah.
do what real people do,
Yeah. Wow. That's deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a huge battle that one must face addiction all over the world. It's one of the biggest, things that people try to tackle, right? There's
Yeah,
all
it's
these,
epidemic.
it's epidemic. Good word. So how you, as deep as you were in that, able to get to where you're now? That's the ultimate question that
Yeah.
all the people out there listening to this that may be going through something like that or have a family member, like you're just like where they all want to be. Like they all want to get there, right? And we all strive for that. So
Yeah.
like how are you able to get there?
I will say that I have put in a lot of consistent work and effort. But there was something that was granted to me, a gift, I would say, that wasn't from me, that allowed me to see the truth of the situation that I was in. And I don't know how one obtains that. I really think like being in the depths of delusion that I was in, chasing the things that I was chasing, treating people the way I was treating them, I really was deluded into believing like that's how I was going to live life and justifying all of my behaviors, not even if they were wrong and feeling like they were wrong, I would justify it or excuse it by blaming some sort of circumstance around me. So I don't really know how you get out of that unless you become aware of how horrible it really is. And that awareness, I think, was a gift that was granted to me, where I could just see the truth for a moment. And then when I saw that truth, I was surrounded by family who was willing to support me, and a willingness to work towards something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true. It's hard to describe what it is, but I know what you mean because mine came solitary confinement. That without solitary confinement for 3 years, I wouldn't be here today because I was so caught up and lost in that it needed to take something so traumatic to happen for me to wake up. Right. And for some, it's that they overdosed. For some, it's they lost somebody that was truly special to them. Right. It's those those great impact moments. Was there a great impact moment in your life that kind of shifted?
Yeah. I mean, of course, yeah, the person I related to the most in the world, that I used the way that I use, interpreted the world the way that I did, and we were so enmeshed in this traumatic relationship. He killed himself. And I still used and drank. This is the delusion that I'm talking about, is like I used and drank for like 10 months after that occurrence. So it's not like that occurrence happened and I suddenly had an aha moment. I used it as an excuse to live more of the way that I was living. But the thing that shifted was that the drugs and alcohol didn't relieve me from that pain anymore. Where before, every other traumatic circumstance that I had been in or perceived that I was in, drugs and alcohol treated it. And then after that, I still was hating myself and feeling uncomfortable, and it didn't take away the pain or the sorrow. And so it was like the one solution I had to my life was no longer working, and I couldn't live in that for very long. And then after the 10 months, that window of grace was offered to me. So yeah, I mean, there's traumatic events and aha moments, but I think the aha moment is the gift. And I don't know where that comes from, you know, and it's really hard for families. Like my family watched me wanting to help me and be useful to me, and nothing they did made me have that aha moment.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for lack of love. Like I'm surrounded by an immense amount of love, and I have been my whole life. So I don't know if I could say anything to the families of somebody who's going through active addiction, is like, please take care of yourself. You know, if you can take care of yourself and be available for when or if that aha moment happens to the person that you love who's in the middle of addiction, like you'll be able to help them. But if you can't take care of yourself, like you won't be available to them. Yeah.
Yeah. And along your journey, like what are some things that you've done or continue to do to help you to, I mean, well, I don't know if you still experience this, but a lot of people that I know that were addicted, including myself, there's certain things we have to do to maintain from like wanting to go back to that, right? Like I have my routine that I do. I don't go to AA, but I have friends that do all the time because they need to. For me, I've kind of have my own techniques. Is there things you do to help you maybe to help you with that, but also just help you with other things that you struggle with in life?
Yeah, I am part of a sober community, which I love. I mean, almost all of the people in my wedding were part of that community. So I've met my best friends there, people of integrity, like people who've shown me how to love and how to receive love. And that community has been really helpful. I'm very disciplined in showing up there, keeping my commitments there, like being active in that. But I also, like, I hike my dogs at 6 a.m. most mornings, and I work out, and I pray, and I meditate, and, you know, I've done meditation retreats. You know, I do some inner discipline where I, like, really try to look inside of myself to see what am I ignoring or rejecting or making small, you know, because eventually that stuff builds up, and then it shows up in behaviors that I don't want it to. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's like a balance of the good, great community surrounding yourself with people that, you know, are going to be able to help you when you're going through something or they've been through similar struggles. So you have that connection. And then also the self-work we do, like when we're not with the community of people, like what are you doing throughout your day to help you, you know, in all aspects? Because I know so many people that may not be addicted to drugs, but they're addicted to other things, Right.
You know, and it could even be like work, right? And I feel like that's one of the things that I still struggle with is like just having to like sometimes just stop because I work so much and all day, every day. But also somebody told me today that if you're doing something that you truly love and like and maybe it's labeled work, right? But if it's doing very meaningful and stuff and it's important to you, then just why not keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the stuff that you do now? Like what are the things that you like to do and that you and also talk about your husband?
Yeah.
You guys had an incredible wedding, by the way, and I was honored to be there. It's beautiful. Honestly, like there wasn't like anybody in there who wasn't crying. Yeah, I swear.
Which was my goal.
Yeah, it worked. It worked.
I made all of this like playlist, and I was like, if everybody isn't crying, I'm not doing it right. Like that was the vibe for the ceremony, you know?
It was so beautiful. It was like, cause you felt, it's just a different feeling. You felt like like people who struggled and then just like emerged and just beautiful. It's different than when you go to a wedding and it's just like, oh, they've had it easy their whole life. It's just been like kind of,
Yeah.
but it's hard for, let alone to commit on that level, but to overcome the struggles to get there, to get to that point.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful.
Yeah.
We felt
And then
that.
to do it together, like my husband is, I don't even like to call him my husband. The person that I have the honor of getting to walk through life with, and we're both committed to doing that with each other. Like, he's an exceptional human. There's a lot of exceptional humans in my life, but we are on the same page, and I admire him so much. And I think he's really selfless and somebody I want to grow towards, to like be like. And we really wanted to honor our family. We wanted to honor the journeys that we've both walked through, and the fact that it has taken a community. Like, he and I both realize that we're a little crazy and come from some crazy stuff, you know? And so it takes a village too. Like, we're really lucky to have people that help carry us and tell us the truth about ourselves and help keep us grounded. And we wanted to pay like homage to that as well, you know? So, but obviously I'm biased, but yes, it was a beautiful ceremony and a beautiful wedding.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know your family is really proud. How's your sister? Your sister is still doing tattoos and
Yeah, she owns her own tattoo studio, Opal Tattoo Studio, if anybody wants to go.
Yeah, and you got any new work done by her or?
What is the most recent piece I've had? Oh, she did another piece on my back recently. It's covered right now, but she does these really beautiful girls, or their faces really, and then sometimes she'll make them like sad or wearing a headdress, or like this one has a broken mirror and a teardrop, which I'm not sure that she knew this, but when I was in detox, I broke a mirror while I was crying. And so she was like, do you want one of these? You know? And I was like, is it odd or is it God? You know, like the fact that she drew it, didn't know that it had meaning to me, and then it had meaning. And I think the work she does is like, it's basically therapy, what she does, you know? Like, she offers such amazing support, and to be able to create art and help people walk through their trauma, like by putting it on their body and representing it in a completely new way, is like, she's a special human.
I never thought of it like that. That's a beautiful way to describe it. Like tattoos, in a sense. It was always for me just like, you know, getting something, for a lot of it ego, but then eventually start things that were meaningful. But I didn't think about the process too, like the you know, the artist can give you outside of just the ink, like the feeling experience.
Yeah, a safe place. She really provides a safe place. She has so many people that come to her either for their first tattoo, and she has she's appointment only, and so she does like a fill-in application, and sometimes she'll ask for a background of like, why are you getting this tattoo? So she gets to know her clients a little bit. And so many people are like, my grandma died, or, you know, my mom is walking through breast cancer or something like that. And so she gets to create an environment that's really like welcoming and healing for people as they're getting something to represent a struggle that they're walking through. It's therapy. You know? I also find the more emotionally healthy that I get, the more tattoos hurt. So.
That's so true. I agree. It's funny because I've actually partnered with a company called Tattoo Away. And Tattoo Away is like this new innovative way of removing tattoos. But it's non-laser. So it's like they basically go back in with needles, like if they were tattooing you, and then they apply a solution, and then the solution creates the ink to rise up into the scab and then fall off. And so cool. Your skin goes back to its natural color after healing process. But they're actually like marketing and selling their tattoo removal process to tattoo shops who want to create a clean surface to put something else over, or at least fade it enough to where you can cover it. So it's pretty cool, and we're gonna get it into the prisons in California so that when people have tattoos they want to remove, like gang affiliated tattoos, they're about to get out and they're no longer part of that life, they can actually do the process in prison before they get out. So it's really cool.
It is really cool. It sounds like, is it less painful than the laser, do you know?
It is absolutely
cool.
way less pain, and it's just like the pain of getting a tattoo. But then they also use the numbing cream, so it's less. If you don't use numbing cream, it's going to be less. So, yeah, and then it just goes through the process. It takes a little bit longer to heal,
Right.
but yeah, it's less painless. It's less sessions. It's cheaper. It's pretty cool. It's just so new. Nobody's really using it like laser, but eventually it's gonna replace laser.
Yeah.
Because now laser, they're showing all these studies that because the ink stays in you and then it travels through your bloodstream and it's supposed to come out. But in the process of that, they've been showing like studies that it's causing cancer. So yeah, so it's pretty crazy.
Isn't everything causing cancer?
Everything is, yeah. So absolutely, that water we're drinking is causing the plastic is causing cancer. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's pretty crazy because I never thought I would having all these tattoos and continuing to get them. I would never remove anything, but I get the idea of, but starting new, or having a tattoo and fade it a little bit and put something over it, so it's like a representation of two things, like growth, replacement. So I kind of look at it like that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. Yes, there's some things that you can't really cover up. Just having a sister who's a tattoo artist, there's a cover up really is you have to be able to take the eye away from whatever was sitting underneath it. And there are some things that are just too bold or too black or, so it makes sense that we would have a process to remove them. But I'm just like you. I'm like, just cover it up or add something on top of it.
Yeah.
I'm like not a removal person because I'm like, it tells a story. But I also don't have like a swastika tattooed on me or something, know, which like I've met people who have gotten out of prison and who have, blasted on the back of their head or on their chest or their back or something like that. And I can imagine not wanting to be branded as somebody that you're no longer identifying with.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely right. Same thing. I see the same thing in prison. You got people walking around that have all these tattoos on their face everywhere. But then, they were young. It was a whole different mindset they had. Like when I think back of my old mindset, completely different. So I look at it like, well, people want a fresh start and don't want to be, just judged for that. It's a great opportunity for them. Yeah. So really cool. So what have you been doing lately? Like, what kind of work do you do? What's been going on in your life lately since we last talked?
Yeah, I actually work for my father-in-law now. He owns a fitness recruiting company, so I get to work from home, which is so awesome.
Nice.
And they're super flexible with my school hours. I'm still in school. I'm doing my prerequisites to then hopefully transfer to become a nurse, but I'm not in a nursing program or anything yet. I'm just doing the science classes. I think one of the things that my addiction sort of did is like, I don't know, I went to 9 colleges and it's not like I flunked out of them, but I didn't pursue anything. I was like really confused. Like if you look at my transcripts, you'd be like, she took criminology and psychology and zoology.
Trying to figure it out.
Interested in so many things and had zero ability to commit to anything. And so now I'm sort of starting from scratch and there's some classes I have to retake. But I think that I'm really interested in nursing and you can do so many things with it. Like if I get bored doing ER, I can go to psych. And if I get bored of psych, I can work with kids. And if I work with kids, I could even do Botox, there's a million different things. So
so many different options when you go that route.
Yeah.
And do you feel like it also gives you an opportunity to feel like, do some like help people, right? Do some meaningful work and stuff like that. And I think people who've went through things in the past, who've battled through something, I know for me, like the work we do now in some way has to connect to like paying for the fact that like, it's like making amends for me, like being able to make amends for all the things I did through the work I do now.
Yeah.
You think that's a big part of like the healing and just acceptance of things that we've done to ourselves and others is like the work we do now?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no greater driving force to like clean up my past than to do good in the future. It's like I would love to connect with people, to give back, to maybe help somebody else, even if it's just planting a seed for the future who's like going through something that maybe was similar to me or mental health issues, like any of that sort of stuff. It would be great to have to be actually useful, not just in my experience, which is totally useful, but also a practical application of it.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm hoping I can put that all together and then be a really good nurse.
Yeah, no, and you said you're educating yourself, right? You went to different colleges, all these different colleges.
So many.
What is your thought? It is because I know from your experience being education, like, what do you think is like? What's your stance and like your about like education today? Like, it's like, what are some things you think that we can do to improve it?
Oh God, I think about so my family is friends with some other like long-term friends that live in like Sweden and Germany and stuff like that. And college is free over there. Like they create an entire educational track where you sort of figure out what you're good at, and then it places you in a position to figure out, oh, these are going to be your career paths. And so it sort of mainstreams or like streamlines how to give back to the community and how to identify your best assets. I wish we had something like that.
Yeah.
You know, because college is very expensive, and sometimes you're spending years in an education for something you don't know if you're going to be good at or even use at the end of it. Like it seems other places in the world have really figured out a way to like, what are you good at? How does your brain function? How can you best make this useful to your community later and get paid for it?
Yeah.
You know, we don't have that here at all.
Yeah. I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Tattoo Away. Tattoo Away is a new, innovative way to remove tattoos. I'm going through the process myself. It's incredibly fast and it's painless, and it's just a more effective way of removing tattoos. So I just want to give a shout out to them. If you're interested in this new innovative process, their link is in my description. And if you would like to get connected with them directly, please reach out to me and I can help you with that. Now let's get back to the show. And that's so true, because it's so important to figure out like what you're passionate about, you know, and if you don't have a way as a kid to kind of explore that and then figure it out and get on that path, you can find yourself doing something you really don't like to do for a long time. And then later on, you're like regretting it and you're trying to make changes later, which is a lot more difficult. So that's
hard.
Yeah.
You get pigeonholed into something. Or also like a lot of us don't even know how our brains interpret information or how we best learn.
True.
You know, our entire education system isn't based off of like, I'm a kinesthetic learner, meaning like I do things and then I learn how to do it from experience. I'm like, throw me in, coach, we'll figure it out. But I cannot get a good paying long-term job by showing up to an interview and being like, I have no experience in this, but throw me in, I'll be great at it. Like, no way. It would never happen. So I have to have that education to like back it up, you know? But so many people don't learn the way that our education system wants us to receive information. Visual or auditory learners. I don't know, less than 5% of every class I've been in do people identify as being able to learn that way. You know? It's crazy.
Yeah, so true. So this is like the question that now I could ask you.
Oh, okay.
I feel I could ask you this now because you have experience. Like, what does it take to be in a successful relationship? That's the ultimate question.
I'm married now.
Yeah, you're married, so you reach the Holy Land. Like everybody know. But I mean, it's the question that people ask me and I have no clue. I'm definitely not an expert in that. So I'm interested, like, and maybe there is no answer. Maybe it's just what works for you, you know, and your partner. But what are some of the things that you feel would make for a successful relationship?
Yeah. You're right. I don't think anyone's an expert in this. Like even people who have been married 50 years, I think are probably just figuring it out a day at a time. But they have enough respect and admiration for each other, and that trumps any sort of obstacles or difficulties they're walking through, and being willing to learn and do it together. My husband likes to say that we fail all over each other, but we have a lot of compassion and patience and kindness and understanding, and we're willing to have those values be front of the relationship, you know? And yeah, I think I just respect him so much. You know, like I truly admire him. I don't have any contempt or, I mean, obviously I have judgment sometimes, like I'm a human, you know, but my respect and admiration and willingness to stay committed and be committed and partake in the relationship, like commitment is the number one thing.
Yeah.
Especially in a world where like dating apps, you can always find somebody else. It's like empty.
Yeah.
It's so empty.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm committed to something, I'm going to invest in it. I'm going to try to be my best self in it. I'm going to try to help him be his best self. And then we can like grow together.
Yeah.
But we've also only been married 4 months. So just to let people know.
Well, I saw the way you both looked at each other on the wedding day, and I feel like it's going to be for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on like modern dating? I got out of prison, and it's like this whole thing of like online dating. Like my sister found her husband there. Other people I know have found people there. The kids, that's kind of like what they're being brought up in, right? I don't really see or hear about people like, hey, we met at a coffee shop, or we met here. So we met online. We met on this. And a lot of my friends are online. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that's a good thing or like a bad thing, like going forward, especially with young people?
Yeah, I have such a difficult time with this because when I was online dating, it gave me an immense amount of anxiety. I love to meet people in person.
Yeah.
But I think anything can be really useful if you have the right motivation and right intent behind it. I just think most people nowadays probably get overwhelmed by the choices that they have and feeling like, oh, maybe they're going to make the wrong choice. And so they should go date a billion people all the time and never get committed to anything. And it's not good.
Yeah.
I think more people are more unhappy and maybe happier staying single now. And I think that's probably because of all the options on the dating apps.
Yeah.
Every single person that I've ever dated, I met in person. It was like a cute meet thing.
Yeah.
You know? And to me, they're the best relationships.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of like you're on a screen and who knows now with AI, if that's even the person,
Right.
then you got to go through all the energy of like texting, and then you go meet, and then it's like all that could be for nothing because there's no connection. But if you meet them in person, there's like that cuts down so much because you just know right then and there, like, oh, that was cool. Or like, we have this in common. Like, it's so quick.
Yeah.
Right. So I like, I think it's a good thing for young people out there to try to do it the old school way. Right.
Yeah.
Like, you truly want to meet somebody that you have an instant connection with, that you can build upon.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an amazing way to meet a person, not just relationship, but anybody.
Anybody. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that people are finding out more and more that we have such an accelerated increase in mental health, suicidality, feelings of loneliness. And obviously it's connected to social media and the way that we date and the way that we think like we're in connection. And like, I'm not even on social media anymore. I think 18 months ago or almost 2 years ago even is when I got off of social media because I was having some mental health issues, comparison struggles, and nobody, not a single person, I don't care what they say, the way that they portray themselves online is never a full 100% accurate interpretation of who they are as a human anyway. And we get deluded into believing that the person that I'm looking at on the screen is the person that they actually are, and there's a disconnect there because it's not real. And then we feel more lonely. So I have felt so much better, more confident, just like more able to connect. I call people on the phone and have actual conversations with them. Like, I meet people in person. It's a priority for me to like spend and be actually present during the time that I'm spending with people. And I mean, even my attention span has grown because I'm not on social media anymore. I'm like a genuinely more happy person because of it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think that people need to hear that as like almost like that it's okay for them to just disconnect from that. I know one or two other people within my whole entire circle that's not on social media, and I really admire that. I really like, because it takes a lot, especially when the rest of everybody's talking about it and like, oh, you're not on there, and they're making you feel a certain way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like you're
like
but like you said, it's just, I remember the world without it, and and I'm like, okay, I used to read so much more. I used to like just sit and think a lot more and have a moment to do this. And now I'm like, it's just coming into my life so much that it's like all day, because it's like through work and engaging with people and just the life I live. It just, it seems like it requires it almost to reach where I'm trying to reach.
Yeah.
But at the same time, deep down, I'm like, if this all fucking went away, I'd be cool.
Right.
Like, I'd pick up my
Right.
books and be more and just do that. And so,
But I
you're
also
right.
think like the way that you're utilizing social media is for actual connection, because you do end up meeting these people in person and trying to
Yeah.
help people feel less alone in their circumstances by sharing real information, not
Yeah.
like a portrayal of something that's false. And I think anything can be used for good with the proper motivation, but we just are, I mean, an epidemic of addiction, not just to drugs and alcohol, but to screens. And so the abuse of it is the problem,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was abusing it. Like, I did not get off of social media because of virtue. I got off of social media because of necessity, truly,
Got it.
Like, I was not doing okay internally.
Yeah.
And it eventually became the only option. I'm also 2 years nicotine free, or more than 2 years now,
Wow,
which is
congratulations.
crazy. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. That's because that's like even harder to kick sometimes than drugs.
It felt like kicking heroin. I will not lie to you. The
Man.
first 3 days, I was not okay. Like,
Yeah.
it was like shaky legs, and like I craved sugar. I think I ate 3 packs of raw cookie dough. Like, it was
Wow.
not a fun experience.
Man, you're incredibly strong to be able to just do like kick all these things, these hard things. Just like, I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy, but there's very few people I meet that can just be like that. Like say, and what is it like? Was it like I'm just done one day, or did you kind of have to ease your way off from like a pack to a half a pack to
I find my experience, because I think that I'm somebody who really suffers from addiction, is the more I try to control it, the worse it gets. So it's like I would tell myself, oh, I'm not going to go pick up a vape today, or I'm not going to pick up a pack. And then I would go and find somebody who was smoking, and I'd be like, oh, let me bum a cigarette. And then all of a sudden I have 3 packs in my purse and negative $25 in my bank account, because they're $11 a pack now. And like,
yeah.
it's like somehow my life becomes really unmanageable really
Yeah.
quickly. So again, it was necessity, not virtue. I had tried to quit many a time on my own. And again, that aha moment happened 2 years ago, specifically with nicotine. And I was willing to do any and all of the work necessary to stay separated. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. And I know you're like you're like me. You're a dog lover.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I have a sister who just like tells me things like, I love dogs more than humans. And I I see you smiling, because you probably like in this feel a little bit where like, she's like, they're just so loyal and like love you no matter what. And the way she explains is like, this was a while ago when her and I were still talking. We don't really talk anymore. That's a whole other thing. But she just always, since we were kids, had this like love for dogs. Like, it's like people, she felt uncomfortable around dogs. That was like her life. She still is. She has like 6 of them, maybe more. What are your thoughts on that? It's just a very interesting thing, because like to love and be that loyal no matter what is like, you have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, but there's also like a danger in that, because there's a sense of safety from something that is completely dependent and reliant upon you, where you're like, oh yeah, you're unconditionally loving, but you'll never leave me because you can't leave me. Versus like a human is like, there's way more risk involved in that relationship. And I'm a dog lover. To me, dog is God backwards. True, like unconditional love and forgiveness and compassion. They teach me that every day. I have 2 amazing dogs right now. And I'm a huge pet advocate, but it is a safe relationship, right? Like being with a human and interacting with humans is like learning how to accept our faults and loving people anyway. And even after you hurt me, which is guaranteed to happen, because you're not going to live up to some expectation I've created for you in my head, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to. You're going to hurt me at some point. And then I still get to practice forgiveness and love you exactly who you are and accept you who you are, and vice versa,
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting perspective. Yeah, that's so true because, like you said, like that you have like my dog's not gonna leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but when you have somebody where you have to actually um, put in more effort for so that you both can stay together, it's not just a
Mm-hmm.
one-sided thing.
Yeah.
That's like a true like almost like you have to make sacrifices, which is
Yeah.
a form of love. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
give yourself, your time, your love, your energy to somebody, it's like that's a sacrifice because you're taking away from something else. Maybe just focusing on you.
Yeah.
So it goes to like the things that also was on my mind recently was how I noticed that a lot of like younger generation, like girls and boys that I've met are like, they just don't want to be parents anymore. What are your thoughts on that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's so many. It's like, I don't want to be a parent. I don't want kids. And,
Yeah.
or I just want to be a dog mom. Right. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
I don't know. I think growing up in Los Angeles, I can understand like it's hard to want to raise a family when it's seems impossible to grow up with the opportunities that you grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's so expensive, and it's like I want to
Right.
be able to like pay to have my kids go to camp. I went to sleepaway camp when I was younger, but
Mm-hmm.
it's way different in costs than it was then, you know? So I can
True.
understand the push against that, like not wanting to feel inadequate and wanting to give your
Mm-hmm.
child or future children everything that they desire. I do want to be a parent, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't fall into that zone, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think I don't know if it's selfish or maybe they want to adopt or maybe they
Mm-hmm.
just don't want to be parents at all. Is that what you're saying? Like the younger generation doesn't want anything to do with
Yeah. It seems
raising
like a
children?
lot of them are just kind of like they don't, for some reason, they don't want to, but they don't know why. They just
Mm,
they don't want to.
yeah.
So I don't know if it's like maybe just like some of them maybe it's in the way they were brought up to
Mm,
almost feel like that they were a burden or something, and
mm,
then they don't want to like have another experience that. I
yeah.
don't know. It's just one of those questions that I often look for answers for, and I'm like
Yeah.
because I see it like working with the youth, and I just see their struggle so much, and
My
things that
brother would be a
yeah.
really interesting person to talk to about this because he studies so much like generational trauma.
Mm,
I'm not going to speak to everything he does. He's a really, really amazing human. He does grief counseling and
yeah.
runs a Sangha group and meditates and like knows like 5 languages. He's really
Hmm.
cool.
Wow.
But I think there is something to be said about not wanting to hurt people the way we've been hurt in the
Hmm.
past and not knowing if we can change that behavior and not pass that intergenerational trauma on. So
Hmm.
maybe they're just more attuned to that.
Yeah.
But I think I live more on the hopeful side of like, if I do the work that I'm supposed to, I'll probably, traumatize my children the exact opposite way that my parents traumatized
Right.
me. But, hopefully I won't do the same or harm them in the same way. So I don't know. I live in like, I just
Hmm.
hope that I can do good and pass that along too. Like we pass along bad, but maybe we also pass along good.
Yeah. Yeah. How important is like, well, raising kids with values and all that is important, but what is like as far as raising kids too, if you have two different people who believed in two different religions, like
Mm-hmm.
say a Jewish person, Catholic person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes them good people, but they
Yeah.
love each other, they're together, maybe they have different belief systems. Like when a kid comes in the picture, like how does one integrate that?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't raised a kid. But my dad converted to marry my mom. And so I
Mm,
was raised in a Jewish household and I
yeah.
went to temple and all that sort of stuff. Um, my sister, she was raised Jewish, but she celebrates Christmas in her household
Hmm.
because her husband likes Christmas, but I don't think they would consider themselves religious. And I haven't raised a
Hmm.
kid with my husband yet, so it'll be interesting. Ask me in a few years what
Okay.
that's like because even though my husband and I have
Yeah.
the same fundamental values, I do feel a draw to raise a Jewish child, and
Hmm.
he knows this.
Yeah.
But he is sort of the belief that like we are going to be given what we need and guided in the moment on how to best serve our future child and to just live in that.
Hmm.
Um, And I want to trust that. But I
Yeah.
also really valued being raised Jewish.
Yeah. I've been doing some speaking at the temple, Isaiah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I did a program with the youth there. It was a professional development day,
Cool.
and I told them my story, and I brought them books, and I'm going to be going back to speak to the teachers now and do like my workshop and my session on my programs and stuff like that. And
Oh, cool.
I'm just truly honored because so I'm Catholic, but I very open minded to the beliefs of others. Like I believe certain aspects of everything in some way. So to be able to, to not like me being Catholic, like hinder me from being in all these different places, or my background, being in prison, not hinder me from going to juvenile facilities or prisons to do my work. And it's almost like all these, different paths that I never thought I would take back into prison, into these different places to speak and all that is just, it just shows me the power of like anywhere and any people you run into, we all go through the same things, the same struggles, pain, hurt, just in different ways and in different situations and stuff like that. And one of the things I notice is there's a lot of people that deal with mental health issues, and they don't really know how to identify if they have that. So like, what do you think is like some ways that people could identify and say, I need help, I'm going through something mentally, that maybe you understand from your experience?
Yeah. I mental health is so hard. I think that if you're lucky enough to be surrounded by people who are willing to sort of hurt your feelings to give you a new perspective around, hey man, this reaction that you're having seems abnormal. It's a little too severe or too emotional. Maybe you should look at that. I think confrontation is really hard.
Yeah.
But it is really hard to identify within yourself. I think mental health, the symptom of mental health is just that everything sort of feels wrong. And it doesn't really matter what that is, if that's anxiety, if that's depression, if that's borderline personality disorder, everything feels wrong, but it's hard to identify exactly what it is to treat it unless you're talking to a professional, which not everybody has access to. So I think being lucky enough to try to find some resources, surround yourself with people who are willing to tell you the truth, and to search fearlessly inward. Mental health is really hard. Yeah.
Do you know of any programs that maybe you can speak to, or for people that may be out there and just need a place to start, like a organization or a group that they can just make a call to and be like, I don't know, I think what Rachel said, I'm feeling like that there's something wrong.
Yeah. I really wish I could remember the name. I was working in a substance abuse mental health treatment center for a little bit, and there was this company. It was brand new. It was coming in, and it was if I find the information, I will give it to you so you can
I'll add
post
it.
it or
I'll put
whatever.
it into the show notes. Yeah.
But it was free to call and just speak to either a counselor, like a registered counselor, or a mental health professional. And then they would give you either continued resources or point you in the right direction. But I've actually been really surprised recently. I have a lot of friends who are on Medi-Cal or like low income and, living off EBT cards, stuff like that. And there's actually a lot of people don't know this, but if you call and you say, I need help with this, and that for mental health resources, they'll direct you. You might have to wait in a waiting room for 3.5, 4 hours, or not be able to see someone for a couple months. But if you can, they do have resources available for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's important. I think a lot of times people just don't know where to start. And although they could search and do all that, they don't know which ones are credible, which ones. There's all these different questions when you're going through something like that. Like, you're very skeptical. So like, I feel like that's great to, and if you think of the name, I'll add it into the show notes later. Yeah. So that people
but also
going
back to
through
the quote that you started with is like, even if you do a bunch of research and find the wrong person, eventually it'll lead you to the right thing because you'll know all the wrong things, failure is just a a way to set you back on the right path or whatever.
Yeah.
It's more about like learning how to be your biggest advocate, which just can be so hard to do when you are crippled with depression and feeling like unfunctional and that you can't advocate for yourself. But I think, I mean, that is the one thing our younger generation is doing, I think, really well, is finding a voice for that. Yeah, just that space of like, I identify this way, I am having a hard time with this thing, and really putting it out in the world so that other people cannot feel so alone walking through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and I have something in common. We both lost somebody very important to us by suicide. And like it's hard for me to even like think about it because, you know, the emotions come to even think about that person, which tells me like the pain's still there. It's so much a part of who I am. If, you know, you can have, you know, a couple of minutes with that person today, what would you say?
Oh God. Heavy hitter.
To end it all.
Yeah, to
heavy
end
hitter
it all.
to end it.
God, so many things that I would want to say to him, but I'm not sure that anything that I could say would have changed the outcome. You know, I think something that I'm truly in acceptance of is, this is going to sound so crazy. Sorry for anybody that this offends, but I believe that energy is neither created nor destroyed. And so because his energy is no longer inhabited in the human form that I once knew, it doesn't mean I don't have access to it. And I think that he is imprinted on my life, and the way that I carry myself and walk through the world allows me to carry his memory with me. And although I don't think we would have had nearly the same relationship today as we would have in the past, I think that he has helped form me and made me more understanding, more compassionate, more able to love, more able to receive love, all through walking through that experience. So maybe I would thank him, you know, like, thank you for showing me that, you know, pain is human, and that we're fallible, and that I can walk through anything.
Yeah.
You know, like that pain, the pain of loving someone who commits suicide is so unique. It hits in a way that it feels defeating, I think is the best word to describe it, where it's like, this person that I know is so worthy and lovable and important thinks that they're not, so much so that they're willing to exit. And that is hard, you know? So I think my initial response would have been, you're lovable and you're important and blah, blah, blah. But I had told him that a billion times over. He was incapable of hearing it. Right. So, and I'm in acceptance of that. I really believe that his spirit is free and probably being more useful where it is now than it ever could have been where it was previously. And I'm hopeful that he has freedom and is being useful, and that's it. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Appreciate you so much, Rachel. Thank you for coming on the show. And I knew that just me asking that question would create such a beautiful response. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.